You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings.
Why are you listening to this show?
The podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Le Batard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
Got Charlotte Wilder and Amin El-Hassan here from Oddball, and we've got the big star from Speak, FS1, longtime friend Joy Taylor is with us here. And I feel a measure of shame about where I'm going to start here with the two women in our presence. I'm going to start with baking, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault. No, it's not my fault. Charlotte will not shut up.
Charlotte's fault.
Charlotte will not shut up about this British bake-off show that she finds soothing, is what she's called it. She says that it's something that she likes to turn on and it just washes over her and makes her feel better about life.
Yeah, the theme song, I have like a Pavlovian response to it this time. I've watched it since maybe like 2017, 2018. And I get so invested. I think it's the only reality show where you have some semblance of people not just trying to be famous. You have just like old people from Britain being like, I'm just so happy to be in the tent. And it's like, amazing, great. I'm so happy to watch you in the tent. Congrats, Gary. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
Do you guys have soothing television? Do you have television, Joy, that you will just turn on and just leave it there? Because you don't want to invest in a movie. You maybe don't want to see 8 episodes of something start and then stop. So you turn something on that you can watch for 15 minutes and then not think about it anymore.
To be fair, I watched the whole hour-long episode, Dan. But
yeah, you have to see who wins, in the tent. I've not watched that show, but I do find cooking shows of that nature to also be soothing. And I cannot bake anything, nor would I attempt to, unless it's like those little break-off cookies. That I feel like that's cheating. That doesn't count.
No, it counts.
I'll take it, but that's the extent of my baking. I think for just noise, I would go with Creek type of programming, but I'm very specific about television because I have to watch so much sports that if I do sit down, I'm happy to just sit in silence, like just absolute stone crypt silence in my home rather than having something on that is like soothing to me. Like the silence is soothing, which I don't know. But if I'm going to watch TV, it's like a very intense scripted show.
Creek is, it's clever and it requires your attention, right?
But I've seen it. Like I've seen Creek start to finish, I think twice. So now I can just put it on and I know this episode and I know what happens.
Yeah, I do that with Family Guy. I'll watch Family Guy because I've seen every episode a million times, so it's just humming at that point. But I also like watching Bar Rescue.
Oh, what a great program.
Oh,
John Tapper, right?
What a great program.
Tapper, yeah.
Shout out.
Anytime, Zach Harper and I, we were in New York last week, and a buddy of ours was talking to us about something in the business, and he says, and the science says that 32% of the time and me and Zach just start laughing. He's like, what I say? Like, no, man, that's just something that Tapper says all the time. He's like, here's the science. You're on a very busy causeway here. 17,000 drivers come by every day. They're looking for some happy
They
hours.
want to see the sign. That's crazy that you said that. When I was driving over here this morning, I drove past what seemed to me like a very big building for a restaurant that I hadn't seen before because there's so many restaurants in LA. And I was like, wow, that's a cute restaurant. That's a very big building. I wonder how much they have to charge for plates. And I was like, oh, Taffer. And just driving. Like, it's so embedded in how we look at restaurants if you watch that show now. That's funny.
Who's meaner, though? Because I don't think of this as soothing, watching him or Gordon Ramsay berate a hotel owner or a restaurant owner, but I will be hypnotized by it. I don't know who was mean to others first on television, but there is something hypnotizing about these people just undressing this poor schlep who volunteered for, here, look at my business here, and just eradicate all my dreams.
They go in and just like tear apart the books and just like
who is meaner.
eviscerate. They're like, who made this decision? And the guy's like, oh my God, I did.
I don't have a problem with, sometimes they are really mean, but the times that I am like, yeah, that's bullshit, is when they have like the bad food or you're like, you're serving this to people. Like I'm like, yeah, that one gets it. Whoever's responsible for this plate full of flies that they're about to bring out to people, you gotta get on them.
It's my favorite things when Taffer goes in the kitchen. You can't serve this to people, and then he just tosses everywhere, takes the burger, throws it against the wall.
When you say bar rescue, into my head pops an image of John Tapper in a dark, dimly lit kitchen with like stuff strewn everywhere, just like throwing food against the wall. I mean,
it's so performative, but I appreciate the theatrics of it all.
Does Gordon Ramsay do the arm around the shoulder thing? Because I feel like Taffer's thing is always slap on the butt, but then after a while, like an arm around the shoulder and kind of like, you're going through some
Gordon's
things, aren't
just
you?
cruel.
Yeah.
He's just, I don't think he uses a soft or velvet glove at all to sort of lure you in on, I'm the everyman, I'm affable, but wait until I cruelly put a sword right across your cheek and everything you've ever believed in. Antique Roadshow does this for me.
Yes.
Because,
My dad loves it.
well, I mean, to me, I feel guilty about this with Antique Roadshow because to me, I'm just televising privilege. Wait a minute, your family just had in a closet handed down something from 200 years ago? Like other people who are not like you do not have this kind of value in their garage under a rug in a place that they haven't looked at in 20 years.
You know why I don't like Antique Roadshow? Because sometimes I'm watching and like, this samurai sword sheath from 1545, $750. And then it's like, this cartoon that was of Snoopy that was signed by Charles Schultz in 1987, $2 million. Like, wait, hold on now, man. This thing is from like centuries ago. This is some dumb thing with Woodstock and Snoopy. Who cares?
Are you questioning the expertise? I don't question the expertise of the people doing it.
No, he's questioning the market and the values that led to that market being what it is. Antiques Roadshow, someone from New England, is a very New England thing. Like there are New England homes where they just have like oil paintings and you're like, this has to be worth a lot of money. And they're like, I don't know. I applied for a job at Antiques Roadshow.
No.
Right when I graduated from college, I was the runner-up for a job as like whatever social media was in 2011 at that point, or like marketing or something. And they sat me down. They were like, we would like to hire you. You're too young and you know nothing. Please get back to us when you know something. And now here I am.
Oh, their loss.
Thanks, Joy.
So you failed.
Yeah.
You've arrived.
Super
You've
failed.
arrived at a place
But
in
I
your.
almost worked at Antiques Roadshow,
And since
which
then,
some might say is success.
That's true. You got far along.
since then, you've carefully curated the antique look, right? Like, because you're a collector of rare
Yes.
books, right? That's the thing.
Well, I look like someone who
Yeah.
would sell rare books.
But now, if you went in an interview, they'd be like, of course. They wouldn't even ask how old you are or anything. They'd be like, no,
They couldn't afford you now.
I can make
They'd
you.
have to sell
Thank
one
you,
of
Joy.
those
Whoa,
very
Joy,
expensive
slow
oil
down.
paintings.
Antique Roadshow now. They rolling in dough. I've seen their budget.
I believe I can form the argument, given that I'm 54 and forgetting names and making more mistakes than I ever have, and that we're on the road, that you're presently working for an Antiques Roadshow, given that we're in Hollywood. How have you found, Joy, as someone who moved from Miami to Los Angeles? It's the only place, Los Angeles is the only place I've ever lived outside of Miami. I interned at the LA Times for 3 or 4 months, and I've been enjoying walking around the city here after we work. And this is a place that I would like to live, but I feel like I'm getting here as it's collapsing. I feel like I'm coming to Hollywood at the time that a lot of people are leaving Hollywood. And furthermore, as I've been walking around, I have been truly jarred by the amount of homelessness that is in the streets, that suggests to me that there is something happening here that people need to be paying attention to, because it does feel like a bit chaotic.
Yeah, the homelessness problem is a massive conversation around Los Angeles. It always has been. I mean, Skid Row is one of the most well-known areas in the world where there's a homeless issue. It's across the entire city now. But outside of that, a lot's happened over the past couple years just in the world in general, and it's shifted the business. So you might be right about that. I mean, even just, I work on the studio lot. Pre-COVID, that lot was a zoo. Like, the amount of people that would be on the lot every day, if you got to park, like if you got to work after 8:30, you would have to valet your car. Not a question. You're valeting the car. There's nowhere to park. there would be people everywhere. You'd have to wait in line for lunch. There's barely any people on the lot anymore. Everyone's working from home. You have these hybrid jobs. You don't have to have writers come into the studio. So it's completely different. LA is a very different place than it was pre-COVID, and it's shifted now. I don't know that it will ever be quite as busy as it was.
Well, it seems like the industry is being shaken, right? You can't help just driving around notice, right? I'm learning things as I'm just looking at billboards because entertainment is so ever present. I'm learning that we're in the last season of Billions. I did not know that because
I learned it from a billboard.
Just the billboards are the amount of money being spent, the energy of creativity that is here is something that you feel, but I do feel like it's vastly less vibrant than it used to be. I don't know.
We're also in a strike. So the writers have been striking for a very long time, and now the actors are still striking. So all of the things that would normally be happening, the premieres, the events, the promotional events for all these shows, I am experiencing this from not as somebody who adores well-written television shows. I'm like, where's the show from? I didn't see anything about the show because nobody's doing any promotion. So they'll have these incredible shows that are coming out that I don't even know are happening and I find out through billboards. That was the first thing I noticed when I moved here, though.
Same.
I was you go to like Ohio, they don't have billboards for the last season of Billions in Toledo. Like it's very, very much an LA thing.
The LA thing about the billboards is the 4-year consideration.
Yes.
Like my consideration? And then I realized, oh no, they're talking to the voters.
They're not talking to you. They're not talking to us. They're not talking to the people that actually enjoy this show.
I wanted to wait till we got an expert here to talk about this because it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a couple of days, and you worked with Shannon Sharpe, and I just want to explore what his makeup artist did to him on First Take earlier this week, where he looks like one of the vampires in What We Do in the Shadows, the vampire, the funniest, I can say this, right? Yeah. The funniest vampire comedy of all time. I could not believe what and he defended the poor makeup artist who must be horrified because Shannon Sharpe was trending just because his makeup was so bad.
Yeah, makeup in this town is a very big thing, and for men, obviously, as everyone has now learned. Like you can really have a bad day in your career if somebody messes that up. I am extremely serious about that. One, because I am a Black woman, and I very rarely work with makeup, and particularly hairstylists that are just prepared for me when I walk in the door. So it is a very serious thing, and we're joking about like the vanity of all of this, but every business has things that people think are a lot or frivolous, and then when you're in television, it's amplified, obviously. But it's a technical part of the job. Like you have to wear makeup even as men. Anytime someone who like an athlete or someone has come in to do the show, particularly on those sets, as you know, is very like, oh, I don't want to do my makeup. Yeah. And I always make it a point to try and kind of gently move them into it. Like, no. It's not makeup. Like I say it, and it is a rule I'm like, don't say makeup. Do not say makeup. It is anti-shine. Okay? Don't say the word makeup. All the producers know, don't say makeup. It's anti-shine. You have to use anti-shine. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to focus on what you're saying, like what happened, because we're so focused on the fact that your forehead is a mirror or something like that happens. So I'm very sympathetic because I understand.
He did look like a vampire.
Dude, we've all been there, man. We've all had.
I've been there. It's so distracting to have to do your job because you know that you're sitting there like.
Well, it's like someone has food in their teeth.
Yeah. Yes.
I looked in the mirror and I saw someone who wasn't me. And I was like, what happened here? Like, did you not have my palate or what's happening?
Try being a bridesmaid one time.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine, right? But it was what Joy's saying is there's going to be someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
I don't want to talk about it, but I have been a bridesmaid. Let's leave it at that.
Don Le Batard.
I am mortified to say that it wasn't but like 10 years ago that I didn't even realize that I went one time to Ron McGill Zoo wearing accidentally my mother's shirt.
Stugotz.
Not realizing that I had buttoned it.
That's impossible.
It's not impossible. It was one of the most airheaded things. It seems ridiculous for everybody involved. I was much leaner at the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to make my mother.
That's impossible.
280. That's also impossible.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
comedian Brad Williams is going to join us here in a little bit. At the end of this era of player empowerment you now have in college, where a lot of players are being paid, the reports that Caleb Williams at USC is requesting, or his representatives are requesting, a partial stake in ownership of any team that he joins. Aaron Rodgers is said to have asked for that with the Jets, and the owners laughed and said, "What are you kidding me? We collectively bargain these things, and one of the things we'll never bargain for is that you guys have that kind of power over ownership." But as this is happening, the senator from West Virginia, Joe Mencken, is saying, and this is an oil guy and he lives on his boat, he is saying publicly that no one wants to root for freshmen and sophomores who are multi-millionaires. And polling has shown over the years that people who are watching college sports don't actually want the athletes to be paid. That has changed some over the years, but it's not surprising that a person in position of power would say something like that. But what's happening there, and how much do you imagine all of this is going to change over the next 10 years? Because already in the NBA, you've seen with Damian Lillard and others what happened with the Nets. You're seeing that authority and power doesn't like it so much when the employees have too much power.
Yeah. Rich, powerful men pushing back on having to give up some margins. When have we ever heard this before?
Literally never happened.
I find it all to be very laughable. I don't think I've had a non-sarcastic conversation about NIL since it was introduced, because that's what it is. And the fear-mongering of giving away power and how it will affect people who have absolutely no proximity to this situation whatsoever, like college football fans, and making them feel as if somehow their experience will be less because a student athlete is getting $20,000 from a hamburger restaurant, is somehow then going to make their team worse or the product suffer, is an anti-intellectual conversation, which I try to avoid at all costs with desperation. What I will say is this: change is very uncomfortable for all of us. It's extremely uncomfortable for powerful people who have been able to lean into luxury and control for their perpetuity of their existence. I don't generally ask senators for their opinions about college football. I say that with the full awareness that most people out there do not care about my opinion as a woman on football. So that's fine. We mutually have this experience. I don't care what you think. You don't care what I think. And we can continue on living our lives. The reality is the product is better because of NIL. College football is more interesting. It has more parity with NIL. We are already seeing this. The same team has been winning for the past couple years because I don't know if you have recently looked at the size of the players that play for Georgia, but they're bigger than the rest of us, and they're bigger than the other college football players that play in college football. That has a lot to do with the fact that they have a great staff and recruiting, and Georgia was always a team that got great recruits. You have a variety of different teams that can compete now. TCU was in the national championship last year. That's unheard of. We know what teams are going to be in the national championship every single year with college football. So this will change. The change will be uncomfortable for people who have had the control and power. And then eventually, 20 years from now, this will be the norm and everything will be fine. And I have a feeling, it's a sneaky suspicion, don't quote me on it, but I think there will still be college football in 20 years.
That's my point. Like, Joy, aren't they lying? Like, he says these things, but it's not like Saturday comes and he's like, not watching that. You know?
How dare.
Let me put on college volleyball because that hasn't been.
By the way, college volleyball players get NIL too, so I guess you're not watching any college sports.
But how much energy should we give to even countering these arguments when they aren't really good faith arguments? If people were leaving in droves saying, I'm not going to support this, these kids are making more money than I am, then regardless of whether they're misguided or not, I think there's a conversation that needs to be had in order to protect the sanctity, not the sanctity, but like the numbers. People, but they're not going anywhere. These people are complaining aren't going anywhere.
It's only growing. It's a monster sport that keeps getting bigger. There's nothing to deter it.
All sports are going to continue to grow because sports and news are the only thing that we watch live as humans anymore. So
and the Oscars.
well, you can't miss it now. It's again, I really do not. I try to avoid having anti-intellectual conversations, but for the sake of this, I'll do the counter. One, sports are only growing. All of the statistics and numbers point to that, and they will continue to grow because that's all we watch that is live. The other part of this, and it's why I think words are so important. When we say this, we say kids, right? Mm-hmm. Kids are making more money than me. First of all, they are all adults. All of them are adults. They're young adults, but they are adults nonetheless. If an 18-year-old person, not kid, person, was a world-renowned pianist, and they made $10 million every time they showed up and played the piano at a show, whilst in college, there would not be senators out here saying, I will not watch this performance because they make $10 million. It wouldn't even cross our mind. But because the system has been created so that they would not make money for what they perform as a sport, it has been programmed into their minds and other people's minds that they should never make money. Where you have actors, you have musicians, you have artists, you have any number of other skilled professions or entertainment spaces where they make millions and millions of dollars and no one has a problem with it. Now, they might think they're making too much money, but they don't want to change laws in order to keep these young adults from making money. So the other part of it that I would push back on is this is not a kid. Oh, well, my 18-year-old kid, your 18-year-old kid did not spend hours of his high school life in a gym training, working with a personal trainer, eating right, doing stretches, not going to parties, not out here doing dumb shit, working for a scholarship, keeping their grades up so that they could become student athletes, where they then go to college and then have to perform with their bodies, which, by the way, they also keep finely tuned in college, and go perform in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Your little snot-nosed child did not do that. So when you say this is a kid, it's not a kid. This is a borderline professional athlete that is playing a sport at a high level of the 1%ers of 1%ers in the world. Your little bony kid is not that. So there's a reason why nobody wants to give him an NIL deal, because he sucks at everything. So you're mad at the wrong person. Or they're just not talented at what they know they're to be talented at yet. Not bagging on your kid. I'm just saying that child is...
You were bagging on the bone. You were bagging at the bone.
They're very good at selling NFTs.
Sure.
That's all
okay,
I'm
great.
saying.
And I love that for them. And they're not going to make a law about how much money they can make on NFTs or swapping sneakers either. My point is, this is not a kid. This is an athlete who put time and energy into making it to the next level where someone would give them money to come to this college and play a sport. So when you say a kid, this is not a kid. This is not a kid.
I do think that people who have these, as you say, anti-intellectual arguments are not actually trying to argue about what's happening. They don't care if a kid gets a truck. I saw some senator was mad about Lindsey Graham was like, oh, these kids are getting pickup trucks. And it's like, oh, are you going to feel differently when they, catch a ball in the end zone? No, what they're doing, they're using this system of change, as you're saying, something that is changing, and taking a hard stand against it to prove that they are people who do not like change and they will keep America as it has always been and follow me, and our kids will not drive pickup trucks, nor will they own them. It's like, what are we? It's such a.
I don't
it's
understand.
Just a brand. They're building. They're using it to build their brand.
Nobody's giving your kid a pickup truck because your kid sucks.
Bony.
So
he's bony.
He's bony, and he's got the snot thing above his lip.
Yes.
That's why your kid is not getting a pickup truck.
She's not going after you personally. It's not your kid personally.
I'm not saying your
it's
kid
your neighbor's
that has
bony
no talent.
kid.
I'm just saying if you are angry, if you have a visceral reaction to a young person who has put that much time and effort into something that has provided them an opportunity to go to college for free, better their life, which is what they're supposed to be doing, and is being paid, but not for their services, by the way, for the profile that they built. No one's paying them to play the sport. That's the other part that people don't understand, the process of NIL. No one is paying them the way a professional is being paid. And by the way, all these college students are not getting NIL deals. There are plenty of student athletes who do not have NIL deals, who do not have big NIL deals. Don't confuse Caleb Williams with the third string running back at some school. Everyone's not making money. So they're actually not professionals.
Why is it you don't ask Joy, hey, what impression is that? Anytime I do a voice, Joy, is like, oh, what impression is that supposed to be?
I didn't start making fun of your voices until you gave us the 1,000th one. If she does this 7 or 8 more times, I will indeed make fun of all her voices. She's only done a couple so far, though. She showed somewhat of a restraint. What I don't get about this conversation is I don't understand why it is you would derive any kind of joy from keeping someone else broke.
That's
America. Yeah. That's America, Jack.
We're all like,
that's like
welcome.
That's like our fundamental founding principle.
I don't.
Like,
wait a minute.
Get to have
it says in God we trust on my dollar. It does not say I like keeping kids broke.
Which God are we talking about? Are we talking about the God that doesn't like abortions, or are we talking about the God that wants everyone to be loved? Like, there's many different
the God who's
variations.
Like, only white guys can vote. Cool.
Yeah, like that God, or like there's different deities here that we're worshiping. I hear the question. I just don't. I don't take the question for face value, I guess. So if I really thought this person was being genuine about their concerns.
You're just saying it's a disguise for my racism. It's a disguise for not wanting to give you equality. It's a rationalized camouflage to wear.
Well, because here's the irony of the conversation for me with NIL. Why do people go to college? Why do people go to university?
Set themselves up for life.
To prepare themselves for the next step, for education, to learn how to be functioning adults in society, to have a skill, right? So why, if that's the case, and I'm certainly not hearing these professors talking about how they don't believe in higher education.
I feel like another voice is coming. I feel like another voice
not professors,
is coming.
These politicians, these people who are against this. Why would you be against a young person learning about money, real money, not monopoly money, not the accounting stuff that we talk about in school, real actual money? Why would you have a problem with them learning about how to manage that, pay taxes, build wealth at a young age? Why would you have an issue with that if you actually believe in higher education, if you believe in the process of scholarships, if you believe in people going to college to advance their lives? Why would you have a problem with that?
She said money like John Taffer. Money.
Money.
Making lots of money.
Don't make any more impersonations, Amin.